Over the last few weeks, we have been bringing to you a series of insightful and empowering talks coming out of the 2-day symposium that we did in October entitled Leveling Up. This week, we have the pleasure of having Sylvia Ombati presenting. Sylvia is the global head of talent acquisition at a Series C startup company. She specializes in scaling startups globally through recruitment, employer branding, change management, organizational development, emerging talent, and furthering equity, inclusion, and belonging in the workplace. She delivers an amazing talk that will give you so many tips around the recruitment process and how to position yourself for that dream job. Enjoy.
I know job hunting can be very stressful, especially in this climate, because usually you know when you're going to be looking for a job. But currently, sometimes you're just going about your job, you think everything is fine, and then you get that meeting or that email. But even before it gets to that, I think it's important to just care about your career, keep yourself growing. Don't wait until you're in a position where, oh my God, I need to find a job to start looking. So we're going to be looking at different areas. The first thing I think people forget is you don't put yourself out there. Usually it's a case of the only people that know what you can do is your boss and maybe the people that you work with. But guess what? If your job goes tomorrow, those people aren't really going to be able to help you get a job. Your network is your net worth. And I can speak that for myself. The last 3 jobs I've had, I didn't apply for. They never saw my CV. Somebody that I worked with or worked for saw the job, put my name forward, and that's how I got those jobs. So it's very important that you build your network. And I know it's hard, but the good thing about the current situation is you don't have to leave your house to network anymore. You can set up a good account, you can attend virtual events, you can make connections, you can get a mentor from the comfort of your bed if you're that scared to leave the house. And so the first thing I want to make is referral is key, like I said. A lot of times the most prioritized people when we have open jobs are referrals. So that's why I always say keep your bridges nice and warm. If you've worked with somebody that you really like, get to know them very well, even if you're leaving. If you see a job in a company where you know somebody, reach out to them. Because as well, if I refer somebody in my company, I get paid $5,000. So it's in their best interest to help you get a foot in. So make sure if you know somebody in a company that you want to apply to, reach out. Also use networks like Fishbowl. So Fishbowl is a social media where you can be totally anonymous. And so you can go there and ask for opinions of a company. People will say whether things are good, things are bad. If you get a job offer, you can go there and say, I got offered X amount of money. Is this too low? And people working there will reach out and say, actually, I've got less experience than you and this is what they offered me. You should go back and counter. So that's why it's really important to build your network. And also pursue mentorship. You need to be taught. People love to teach. My promotions, my jobs, I always showed people that they could teach me. Whenever I went to interviews, I always made clear, you know what? I read the job description. I maybe meet 70% of these skill set, and I'm honest. But I looked at your LinkedIn, and this would be a great opportunity for you to teach me, for you to coach me. So please invest in that. I know it's terrifying, but go on LinkedIn. Go and see, if there's a job you're interested in, just go and search for recruitment manager, technology manager, project manager, and reach out to those people. I often will just look around, try and find somebody who's really senior, and I'll send them a note saying, hi, I'm 7 years into my career. I'm still looking to grow. You look like you have a lot of experience. Please, could we connect? Or I'll check out their profile and see what it is that they've posted and said, I really like that. I'm trying to learn this. People love to teach, and I promise you, your teachers can very easily become your future bosses. And then there are communities designed to further your success. So think of Valence. There are so many job boards that are dedicated to getting Black people into tech, into finance, into law. And they're free for you to join, and they actually often make money if you get hired through there. So if you're a Black professional, you need to join Valence. It doesn't matter what it is you work in. If you're in tech in the UK, I recommend UK Black Tech. Even if you're just interested, you don't need a STEM degree anymore. You can easily do a free course on Google. Google Garage is amazing. Coursera, Simply Learn. You don't need a degree anymore. You can even get an apprenticeship and get the company to pay for your degree because we have a talent shortage. We have Albright. That is a network that I recommend every woman join. It's the easiest place to get a mentor. When you think of CEOs, managers, directors, these are people you would never think to go to and say, hey, can I spend some time with you? Can I chat with you? You'd be intimidated. But they're literally logging on there because they want community. When you become a senior, it's all about influence. So if they can show that they're reaching out to communities and teaching people, that really helps. Black people in STEM, BB STEM, that's a great one. The CFA for accountants, they actually have a diversity chapter. So if you go on the CFA website and you're a person of an underrepresented community in finance, you can join there and they'll give you events, they'll help you get a mentor. If you want to apply for a job, you can just go in there and say, I'm applying for a job at this firm, I am CFA accredited, and somebody will make sure your job gets looked at. So please get in those networks. Fishbowl is my favorite. You can always go in there and you'll find people who, let's say McKinsey. Somebody will go McKinsey and say, oh, I've heard that there's going to be a layoff, and people will chat about it. Or you'll get an offer and you'll post and be like, no, you should get more money. Or actually, they've made you a really good offer. You should maybe accept that. Or if you're looking for a job, they call them bowls, almost like Facebook groups. So if you're in tech, you go into the tech bowl. I'm in recruitment. I'm in the recruitment and HR bowl, and it's totally anonymous. It doesn't have your name. All that it says is either your profession or somebody working at a company. So for me, it could either say technical recruiter. It could actually just say employee 1 at Solo, or it could say technical recruiter, senior technical recruiter, recruiting lead. It's totally anonymous and it gives you a lot. And then for virtual events, because I know it can be intimidating, Meetup is amazing. Whatever field you're in, make an account. As long as you have a Facebook account, you don't need to give them your information. You can go on there, find a group that matches your interest. Here in Belfast, I work in tech. So we have Brew and Bites, and that's usually just a call. It's like 8:30 a.m. on Thursdays. And most people think, why would I want to join a work call in my own morning? And usually directors, CTOs of big tech firms, they'll be on there having a breakfast, just chatting, and they'll be able to answer any questions that any profession is having. So just look for opportunities like that. And these are all for free. So your network is very important. And then next is LinkedIn. I know a lot of people wait until they're looking for jobs to go on LinkedIn, but it's social media. You need to be a member and engage on a very regular basis. Treat it, consume it like any other form of personal social media. You need to be present. You need to show yourself that you're there. This is a good way to work smarter and not harder. You know how people say they have passive income, they make money while they sleep? This is a good way to passively broadcast your skills. Because if you create a good profile that shows all the skills that are in your business areas that companies are looking for, a recruiter will come and find your profile without you having to do anything. Like for myself, I get maybe 10 a week. For software engineers, it's 40 a day. So if you have a good profile, you're going to get approached. It builds your professional brand. Once you pass the 5-year mark in your career, you need to start showing that you know what you're talking about. So you can show that you're attending events. You can show that you're supporting things at work. You can write articles. You can post videos. And this just helps that if there's a manager hiring or a company looking for people, in the 30 seconds that they visit your profile, they can be like, oh my God, this person knows what they're doing. Let me reach out to them, or I have an opportunity on my team. So people will do that. And also you can showcase testimonials. I always say I recommend people making LinkedIn about sixth form, because then this is where your life kind of gets in the way. You don't see your schoolmates anymore. You don't know where they're going to end up. So the idea is whatever you're studying, get your friends to go on your profile and give you a thumbs up and endorse. They don't have to write anything. But if they want to, that's great. I always say if you're changing jobs, get your boss, your colleagues to go and then just write a few words. I even get candidates that have good feedback to just go on there and put just a few words. It really does help. As a recruiter, if I see that somebody has a written endorsement, it makes me want to speak to them because somebody's publicly putting their name on their profile and saying, I know this person, I've worked with them, and they're doing really well. And again, it maintains your professional network. If you've worked really well with a group of people or you've had a good manager, It's good for them to be able to see how you're still doing after you've left them. I still speak to my first manager when I was at university, when I first started working in a recruitment agency, and she sees how I'm doing. And because she engages with my content, I remember to ask her for advice, or she reaches out to me for advice. So it's really important. Find a mentor. You need a mentor. If I could go back to myself in uni, I would get a mentor then. Like, everybody needs a mentor. Even if you're very senior, get reverse mentorship. Find somebody who's entering your profession with fresh eyes. It really does help. The biggest CEOs that you look up to, they have somebody young that they turn to for reverse mentorship. And it gives you easy access to leaders, to recruiters, to influencers. So when you're applying for a job, you can always reach out to them. You're able to message them, like, where else would you be able to go and search for the CEO of a company and say, hey, I see that you're growing and you're coming to Belfast. I'm actually an experienced professional and I'm looking for a job. You would never be able to do that. And the worst thing that's going to happen is they're not going to see it, or they're not going to reply. And you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. So I wanted to show you what a good LinkedIn profile. I feel like a teacher. Now, class. So I always say try and have a good banner, but it's okay if you can't find one. My advice, just get one from your company. Your marketing department will have one. And you know what I always say? If you can showcase that you are your company's biggest fan, recruiters love that. Managers love that, because that means they'll get a dedicated employee that will help their brand. So reach out to the marketing department and ask, do you have anything I could use as a banner on my LinkedIn profile? Or just go and look on Google Images. Make sure you have your name. These days, you can also put a video if you work in marketing or anything that says, hi, I have these many years of experiences. Please feel free to connect. You can record pronunciations of your name, which I know I have friends and family who are tired of remixes of their names, so please use that feature. I always recommend having a biography. It doesn't need to have a specific format. I know people feel like it has to be serious. You just need to make it an elevator pitch, something that summarizes who you are, what you do, the area of your expertise, and why somebody should connect with you. Mine talks about my experience, what I'm doing, but it also mentions that I love to cook, and it gives a fun fact that egg rolls were actually invented in New York. So you can decide what you want. And then you can have your experience. I always say, try and put succinct descriptions. It doesn't need to be a whole blog. Again, the idea is, if a recruiter or a manager comes to my profile and they don't know me, so they don't have my CV, how can they very quickly see what I'm doing, what I've done in the past, and the skills that you have at the bottom? It's very important to just give a snapshot, because sometimes what we'll do as recruiters is we will save this as a PDF and share it with a manager before we approach you, because this is basically meant to be the CV that lives out there. So it's really important to take care of it. And so I wanted to give another example. So this one's a bit longer. We're not going to read through this, but I just wanted to showcase at the bottom how she starts off with what she does, so you know her expertise, but she also lets you know who she is, because you spend most of your life at work. And I hate to tell you this, because I know not everybody likes to appreciate it. People will also hire you because they like you and they want to spend time with you. We spend so much time at work, most of our waking life. So it's important to also, be able to give a snapshot of who you are. And of course, make sure your picture is approachable, smiling, friendly, no party pictures. Selfies are fine. Mine is a selfie, but try not to have the obvious hand or the mirror with a dot of a flash. Try not to have that. And so once you make your LinkedIn profile, people go, what do I do with it? Do I just leave it sitting there? No. Because if I want to reach out to you, I want to be able to see that you've been logged in here in the last week, last month. It doesn't have to be every day, but just treat it like a normal social media. Because trust me, once you start connecting with the people that you look up to, you want to work with, work for, you will want to be on that social media every day. Just a couple of minutes. If you're like me, I don't like to write posts. So I just like and comment, because that then shares it to all of my network as though I've posted it. So I always say, for content, keep it up to date. If you've got a new job, if you've been promoted, even if it's a similar title, at least do a post saying, I've been at the company for XYZ and I'll now be heading X and Y project. Always make sure that there's something showing what it is that you do. Always share events that you or your company are attending. Again, show that you're out there, show that you're engaging, show that you're keeping yourself relevant to your industry. And again, if you're helping promoting that something your company is doing, you are an active and engaged employee. There is a reason why companies spend so much money on employee engagement. If they can see that you'll contribute to that as well as your job, it makes you more attractive. Job opportunities at your company, again, you're showing, I want my company to succeed. You're showcasing that this is somebody that will help us. And hiring managers love that. And again, like, comment, like, post, comment, give kudos. If somebody's done well, give them a shout out on LinkedIn if it's within your team. Certifications, a lot of us will start a new job, we'll get qualifications, certificates. Share it. Share it. Don't keep it a secret, because at the end of the day, that's going to make you more marketable. Sometimes your company will say, I've invested in that for you, that should be enough. But that in itself suddenly makes you worth so much more money in the market. So put it out there, because to somebody else, that might make you worth a couple more thousand. And then write articles or posts, especially when you're job hunting. The difference between a post and an article is, a post is just like social media. Whoever happens to be using the app just as you post will see it. But if you write an article on LinkedIn, it notifies every person that you're connected to and follows you that you've written an article. So an article could be a project as long as it's not confidential. It could be advice that you're giving to somebody starting your career. If you've helped graduates in your company, write an article. Anything that just helps showcase you, anything that you would want your whole network to professionally know about you, make sure you share that. And then again, company announcement. If your company's in the news, help them. Help them. You want to show you're engaged. Professional achievements, but I always want to stress this. Don't forget the personal. We're now working in remote first companies, which means that they actually want to get to know you more personally, more than before. So obviously have a bit of discernment. Don't post a picture of you partying. But if you've run a marathon, post it. Like this for me is outside work, but I made sure it was there. I made sure people knew, listen, I have this mouth and I use it outside work and it's doing all right. So let people know what you're doing. And then next is your resume, because don't worry, you don't have to see it. The most important thing is the structure. I know once you start looking, you think, how do I write a CV? It's a lot, it's stressful. So you can decide how you want to set it up. Personally, keep it simple. If you work in tech or you're creative, yes, you can add some color. Keep it simple. On average, a recruiter will spend 7.4 seconds on your resume. So you can do all of this, but I'm going to look for the words I want to see, and then I'll move on. And also, please only apply with PDF. So once you've made your beautiful thing, make sure you convert it to PDF. If you apply to a job, ideally you're not applying to one of those companies where you upload your CV and then you have to fill your experience again. But what usually happens is you submit this document to us. Our applicant tracking system will extract the information. If it's PDF, it will translate perfectly. If it's Word document, it turns into Morse code. And often than not, if we have a lot of applicants, if I have the time, I'll try and download it to my drive so I can see the document and then re-upload it. If my job has, I've had jobs now that have 500 applicants. I'm so sorry, but if it looks like that, I'm just going to move on to the next person. So please always transform your CVs into PDF. And ideally, you just want to keep it simple. It should have your name, your title, address. I left the word address there. Stop putting your address on there, because one, GDPR, but also discrimination can happen. Yes, it's now remote work, but if a role is hybrid or on-site, if a manager sees that you are a far commute, or you can face discrimination because of the neighborhood you live in. So just put the city that you live in and just leave it at that personally. I usually just put UK because I go for remote jobs. And then you want to have an elevator pitch. So if you have multiple career interests, you're going to need to write as many versions of this as possible, because to be successful, you're going to need a CV for every career interest that you have. All of this, the actual jobs, that can stay the same. But if you, for example, I'm a recruiter, I'm a DEI consultant, I'm a change manager, I'm a early talent recruiter, I have a different CV for all of those things. These parts, for the most part, are the same. I emphasize certain things, but the bio will always change. So if you meet the manager of your dream company and they're not able to see this, if that is the only part they can read and they only have 30 seconds, what would you tell them? That's what it needs to say. And then for your job portions, make sure that people tend to chat about like, oh, I worked as part of a team to implement. I don't care what your team did. What did you do? I'm not hiring your team. I'm hiring you. So make sure you're chatting about what your contribution was. If you can add numbers, so I reduced time to deployment by 2 hours. I was able to deliver 3 days ahead of schedule. Make sure there's numbers because you're showing impact. Everybody can get qualifications, everybody can do a job, but what impact did you have? I don't want somebody with the skills, I want somebody who will get me results. And then for education, here's the thing. We know discrimination happens. So my advice, often, if you've graduated more than 10 years ago, just put the university and the subject you studied. That is my personal advice. You can decide to put the year if you want to, but age discrimination is a thing. So I always say don't do that. And also don't put your high school, don't put your sixth form. I don't want to see your A levels. I'm proud of you for getting an A star in RE. You will be very blessed, and I'm so proud of you. But I honestly don't need it. Again, we literally skim through these, so try and keep it short. Certificates, if it's relevant, yes. I always say don't put references unless it's notable. Give them a reason to reach out to you again. So unless your reference is a CEO, a director, a CTO, maybe you know Obama, I don't know, then you can put that there. I mean, GDPR obviously as well. You also have to think about, do I want just about anyone to have their contact details? And then I kind of accidentally covered this, but tips, make sure you have multiple versions of your CV. Change the bio, make sure, here's the biggest thing. If you're looking at a job, before you sit down and fill that job portion and skills, read the job descriptions of the job that you want and look for specific examples of how you meet them, and that is what should go into your CV. So read the job description, what are the requirements, what are the skills, highlight the ones that you meet, and that is what you should showcase when you're describing current and past jobs in your CV, because that way you're relevant. And again, don't add relevance, and here's the stat, 7.4 seconds in a CV. I work with Americans, hence the resume, sorry. But 7.4 seconds. I probably spent less. I'm going to be honest, I probably spent less. I know what I'm looking for. And if it's long, if it's waffly, I'll move on. And be open and honest about career breaks. The last few years means that we all have to be, we're more human, we're more empathetic. We know that things are out of control. So if you've been furloughed, if you've been laid off, if you've had to take a career break, it's fine. Just let people know. So hopefully you apply. Hopefully you get a job interview. And by the way, rejection is normal. The way I process it is I have a folder in my email and I save every rejection email. That's how I process it. I go, that just means that door is closed, but God has an even bigger door. That's how I approach it. But hopefully you apply, you get an interview. This is what I recommend you do. Again, so hopefully you've done this in your CV, but before you go to your interview, read the job description again and put examples of how you meet that criteria. Make notes about that. Make bullet points. It's okay to come with notes. I love seeing when people have notes. Look at the company website, because we know that, here's the thing, I know you're applying to multiple jobs and I don't hold that against you. All I ask is that you show me that you are intentional about wanting to come work for me or my boss or whoever I'm helping. So go to the company website, read the about section, look at the products, even if you're not going to be working hands-on with them. Show that you're intentional. Look at the culture. So usually in the career section, they'll have a bit about their culture, their values. If you go to Glassdoor, you can even do filters on culture now. And you can also look at the press section, because if you want to get bonus points in an interview, you want to show that you've been able to keep up with what they're doing now. So there'll be articles that they've posted in the last year, last month. You want to show that. Go on social media. Most places have a YouTube channel now because they all host webinars. So look at their YouTube, their Instagram, look at their Facebook. You don't have to follow all of them, but just show that you're intentional. And again, go on Fishbowl. It's anonymous. I usually go in there and say, hey, I have a job interview at this company. Is there anybody here that's willing to talk to me about it? And oftentimes somebody on that team will reach out, and it's anonymous. You don't know who it is. It could even be the interviewer telling you stuff. I've had that happen, and it worked out well. I got the job. And then during the interview, so during and after, ask the recruiter for tips. I know there's lots of process. If you're not sure, just straight up ask the recruiter. We are measured on time to hire. So help me get this job closed, because I have a lot more. So feel free to reach out and ask, what will the process look like? What do I need to show? It's okay to be upfront and ask. Have good posture in the interview. I know sometimes you get nervous, but keep good posture. Have a clear background. I know sometimes you might be sharing a home. It might be noisy. Book a co-working space. River House is a great one. I love using Huggle. Is it Huggle or Hubble? One of the two. And it just means I can book a co-working space anywhere in the world. And usually it's like maybe £30 for a whole day. So you can just go in, and that way you know for a fact you have a professional background, and straight up tell them, I knew I wanted to make a good impression, so I booked a co-working space. And then your elevator pitch, because at the beginning they'll say, tell me about yourself. So make sure you have that ready. Every question you get asked, follow the STAR format. What was the situation? What was the task that you had in front of you? What was the action that you took, or what did you contribute to the group or team you're working as a part of? And what was the result? I need to see that the work you're doing has impact, because you're going to be spending 40 hours a week working. So I want to know it's productive. And be honest about what you don't know. I see this a lot. People make things up. There's usually an assessment, and it'll become very clear. So be open and honest and say, you know what, I've not done X, but I've had similar experience and I see this being transferable. Or, you know what, I've never done this before, but given the opportunity, this is how I would approach it. So it's okay. Be open, be honest. We're looking for people we can teach, we can coach, we can develop. I don't need someone who's 100% perfect. They'll leave in a month. And then weave in the research. I don't know why I put research twice, but okay. Research, emphasis. And so make sure you weave in the research. So if you've watched a video, if you've read something, make sure you just hint at it while you're speaking to them. And it's okay to refer to notes. I always give bonus points if someone goes, you know what, I have some notes because I'm nervous. I love that. And then have questions at the end. There is nothing worse than me booking 30 minutes, an hour plus to speak to you. And then at the end you go, no, I don't have any questions. Yeah, red flag. Send thank you notes. I always recommend doing that. Even if you don't have their contact details, send it to the recruiter and ask them to forward it for you. They usually will, and they'll remember you when it's time to start shortlisting. And then LinkedIn connection requests after you have the result. That's the advice, because I see people, they apply to a job, then they send the connection request, and it's a bit, I haven't spoken to you yet, I don't know you yet, please don't do that. So after you've had the interview and you know the outcome, please reach out. We'll have time at the end, don't worry. And then use Fishbowl to gauge an offer. So if you get an offer and you're not sure, go on Fishbowl, be honest. Say, I got this base, I got this bonus, I'm not sure about this benefit. Have I been shortchanged? And so I wanted to give some FAQ. So this is where I'll just read from the board. So these are questions that I get a lot. So I wanted to give answers, and if anybody needs this, please share it with them. First is, I need visa sponsorship. It's okay. Be open, be honest. The moment you speak to a recruiter, just be honest. And don't apply for a job if it says there's no sponsorship. I know people do that on the off chance that they'll impress. And no, just be open, be honest. Say I need sponsorship. And if it's not available, it's okay that the conversation ends. There might be opportunities in the future. They might have, a peer that they refer to you. I've been rejected for a job, and then that manager referred me to another manager in a different company, and I got that job. So just always keep in mind how you present yourself. And then, how do I ask for a promotion? Don't. Don't. The best way to put it is to ask how you can add more value, because everything you do in your life will always have an element of what is in it for me. So if you're going to a manager and saying, I want a promotion, okay, but what are you going to give me for it? So better off to go and say, how can I add value? Communicate that you're happy in the company, you'd welcome support in growing within the organization. My best advice, find out what it is that your boss is working towards, because every boss has a spilling plate. And if you can catch that spill, they'll lift you up so you can work together. So that is the best way to do it. What is the worst question to ask in an interview? Tell me more about this company or this job. It tells me you haven't done your research. It tells me you're probably just applying and showing up to any interview. What are good questions to ask at the end of an interview? So, to make sure you've covered your base, because it's normal that you'll be nervous, you'll rush through some answers, I always ask, are there any skills or experience needed to succeed in this role that I've not highlighted today? Or maybe they might have forgotten a question or not know how to bring it up. What are the top 3 priorities that this role will be tasked with leading or contributing to in the first 90 days? This is for your benefit. You can see if your manager will genuinely care about you, because they should have a plan. So this way you'll be able to know, will I actually succeed? Do they care about me? Or am I just here to be a bum on a seat because somebody left? And then, what are the most important performance indicators used to ensure that I'm making a positive impact within your team or company? This will impress them, but again, it'll help you see, will this be a micromanager or someone that will actually be invested in my growth? And then, my favorite, I ask this every time, and every time it stumps whoever's interviewing me, every time. And I've gotten the job every time. Is, what advice would you give to someone at my stage of my career? Nobody ever asks that, and it always catches them off guard, because it's like, oh, you actually want me to personally advise you? And again, that kind of gets them in that frame of, okay, I can teach you, I can grow you, and that makes them want to speak to you more. And then the next page. And then, what are common mistakes candidates make? Word doc, please, PDF all the time. Use different CVs. And always step back. If you're not seeing results in your job application, it means something's wrong. I always say, show your CV to somebody that doesn't work in your job. If it doesn't make sense to them, you need to write it again. And then forgetting to highlight what you individually contributed to, because often people will say they were part of a team. Again, nice that you were part of a team, but what did you do? And then this is a question that I notice terrifies every candidate. Which is, why should we hire you? Don't say because I'm good at my job. I always say, this is a good example. I always say, you understand that the company is growing in a certain business area, ideally in your business area. And then add in the research that you've done. So when I checked out this video, when I read this article, it made me more excited to speak to you, because it helped me really see myself here. And then in my company, I've achieved this, I've achieved that. And I'm looking to continue doing that and bringing that to your company. And this job would be the perfect way for me to do that. That's better than, give me the job. Next one. And then, I know this one stresses people out. Sometimes you have to, when you apply or you speak to someone, they tell you, you need to tell me the salary. So whenever you first get asked, my answer is usually, I'm not ready to share that now. I'm getting to know you. I always think of like the job hunting process is a little bit like dating. Like, I'm only going to give you a little bit and a little bit. So I usually just start off by saying, I'd rather not share that right now. I'd like to have a bit more, I'd like to have a deeper conversation later, once I've had a chance to really show you my skills, what I can offer to the team, what I can offer to the company. But you know what? I understand that this is important to you. So are you ready to disclose your budget? Ask them, can you tell me if you have a certain budget or a salary range in mind? A lot of times, recruiters will try and dance around it. It's our job. If you're pushed and you need to have something more firm, I always say, based on industry benchmarks for this position, relative to my skills and my experiences, so I know what I'm worth, X to Y is a fair market value. And there are ways to prepare for this. Glassdoor, although Glassdoor is a bit hit and miss. Pay scale, my favorite one, message your local recruitment agency in your business area. They filled roles, just reach out to them and say, hey, I have X years of experience. I'm not quite ready to apply yet, but if you could just check out my LinkedIn profile or my CV, do not submit. Sometimes I just say LinkedIn profile, so that way they don't have a CV. I would say if you look up my LinkedIn profile and my experience, if I were to go out to the market, what could I get? And that's usually the best number you can get. If you're friends you can be transparent with about money, that's great. And then I usually just say, that said, I'd like to learn more about the role and expectations and also share more about how I can add value. And then once we've done that, we can revisit the topic of compensation. Does that work for you? I've never met a recruiter that said no. And then you didn't get the job. I know it happens. I still say thank them for your time and ask for advice or feedback. Connect with the hiring manager and recruiters on LinkedIn and engage with their content. Like, comment, but do it in moderation. I see some people go over the top, so maybe do it like once a week. And ensure your LinkedIn is up to date, just because if you're connected with them, they'll see your activity, they'll see your career progress. So just make sure you're keeping it up to date. I've been rejected for a job and been hired by the company maybe 2 or 3 years later. It happens. And then next, you got the job offer. Yay! Take some time. People panic and sign immediately. They've just gone through the entire interview process. They're not going to dismiss you. So I usually just say, thank you so much for the offer. I'm excited about this. I just want to take some time to review it. You're about to sign a legal document. An employment contract is a legal, binding document. It's okay to ask for some time. And then people forget this. Resign respectfully. I know sometimes you've been passed for promotion. You're just like, oh, I'm ready to leave. Goodbye. Notice effective immediately. No matter how you feel, always express gratitude in your resignation letter. Just let them know, please accept this as my formal notice of resignation. This is going to be my last day. I always say, remind them of the thing you're most proud of, or the thing you got the best feedback. Like, I'm most proud of such project when we implemented this, and then assure them that you'll give them a good handover and maybe support recruitment and give further contact information. In a place especially like Belfast, your manager is probably very few degrees of connection to somebody you might interview with next year or the year after. Backdoor referrals are a thing, especially if you're revenue generating. Before they hire you, they'll reach out to somebody and you never know. And then if you get an offer that's not ideal, don't take it personally. Honestly, don't. I usually say go back and still express gratitude and say you're excited about the opportunity and it's nice to know that you chose me. And then highlight again your wins, highlight your worth, just in case they forgot. They spoke to a lot of people and that you're looking forward to it. But be honest, after learning the expectations of the role, its alignment with my experience and the research that you've hopefully done of the offer you'd like to get, just be honest and say you believe that it's below market and a fair salary would fall between X and Y. And then ask if it's something they can accommodate. Likely they'll say, we'll go and think about it. Don't panic. They don't want to start the interview process all over again. So at the very worst, they're going to come back and say no. Or a lot of times they'll meet you somewhere in the middle. That's usually my advice. And then next, good luck. I hope you do well. And I know that was a lot, but I hope it was helpful.